These are the top 7 mistakes that I see when people are making the move here to the Boise, Idaho area. And this video is here to help you avoid making those same mistakes. Hey everyone, if we haven't met yet, my name is Curtis Chisholm. And in this video, we're going to be covering these top 7 mistakes so that you don't make them either. I run one of the top relocation teams here in the Boise, Idaho area, helping people buy homes coming from out of state. I moved from San Diego, California myself with my family, with my wife and 3 children for a better way of life here in the Boise, Idaho area. We absolutely love it. And I absolutely love helping you make the move here. So whether you're 9 days, 90 days, or even 2 years out, all you gotta do is reach out and we'll schedule a Zoom call and help get you moved out here to the Boise, Idaho area. So mistake number 1 is assuming that this Boise, Idaho area is a lot like parts of Southern California, mild. You hear it's the banana belt of the Pacific Northwest. It must be moderate. It's actually not. It actually gets cold. It gets hot. It gets windy. These are all things that happen here in the Boise, Idaho area, and you gotta be prepared for it. It does snow here. It doesn't snow a ton like North Idaho, but these are all factors that you need to understand if you're making the move here. So you don't make the move here and decide that you hate it and you wanna move back simply for better weather. So let's dive into what the weather actually is like here in the Boise, Idaho area, and you can decide if, yeah, maybe it's too much for you, or like, yeah, I think I can handle that. So the number 1 thing with the weather is it does get cold. In the wintertime, it definitely is generally in the 20s and 30s. However, it can certainly get into the teens or even single digits, of course, Fahrenheit. But generally speaking, you're gonna be in the 20 to 30 range. But it's not like it's just in the 20s and 30s and then, oh, it's like in the 50s a lot of times. Generally speaking, once it's wintertime, your top temperatures are gonna be in the 30s. However, there can be times where it does warm up into the 40s, 50s, and that does feel very temperate, it's very nice, but you have to be prepared for a long season, probably 3 months, of it kind of being like around freezing temperatures. Now, the other thing that we get here is what's called the inversion. Now, the inversion basically just gets really cloudy for a long period of time. There's technical reasons why it happens, but it just gets cloudy. Sometimes it can be for a couple days. Sometimes it can be for several weeks where you just don't see the sun. It doesn't happen too often where it goes for that long. It's usually I see from like 3 days to 10 days time frame. There can be more pollution that gets trapped in here. Just basically, there's not a lot of airflow that's able to push those clouds out, and it stays cold and cloudy. Not a lot of fun when that happens. A great tier for that, honestly, is to book that trip to Hawaii or some other tropical location. We've started doing that. We're from San Diego originally. I'm used to sun nearly year round. Here we still have a lot of sunny days, well over 200 full sunny days, and then a lot more partially sunny as well. But it's a great time in January or February to break up the winter and plan that tropical vacation. And it just really helps break it up. Now, the other thing is it gets really windy. And when you couple the wind with the cold, it gets really bitingly cold. It's just really tough. Throughout other times of the year, there is wind, especially in the first probably 6 months of the year. I don't know, it's hard to say exactly. It's kind of randomly windy a lot, more so than I expected. I was originally looking at Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas area. I'm screwed it up. I know it's the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'll probably get comments about that. But a reason I didn't move there was it was really windy. When we were visiting, I asked my friends that live there, hey, is it normally like this? And like, oh yeah, it's like this like all the time. So I was like, I'm not moving. So here it does get windy, probably more than I expected, but you kind of get used to it. But there's certainly a lot of days where it's calm. Now with the weather, it does get hot in the summertime and it gets into 100 degrees for sure. Normal temperatures during the summer are definitely kind of mid to high 80s to the 90s, but there are a lot of days where it can be over 100. Now the summer, it's very unpredictable what it'll be like. You could have weeks on end over 100 degrees. The first summer that we moved here, it was over 100 degrees, I think for 6 or 7 weeks. The next summer, there was only a few days over 100. This last summer that I was in, it was a mixture, I don't know, probably 10, 15 days over 100. And I'm recording this video right now in the summertime. We've definitely already hit 100 a couple of times. Now, that being said, when it's really hot, the way to cool off is to go to the Boise River, go to one of the mini lakes that we have around here and jump in that water and cool off. Or if you got children, head to Roaring Springs Water Park, a really fun water park, all kinds of cool slides, and hop in the water, cool off that way. In fact, you kind of want it to be about 100 degrees when you go to these water parks or when you jump in the river, because if you have any kind of breeze, you're gonna feel really cold when you hop out of that water when you're wet and then the wind hits you. So you kind of want it calm if you can, or definitely like 100 degrees to cool off. So you just gotta be prepared for all that. Now the shoulder seasons like spring and fall are really, really nice times to visit, great times to be outdoors. And that's also the great time for camping, is from late spring all the way through early fall. Really good sweet spot for getting camping trips in. We absolutely love camping, and so we make sure to plan during those times to pack as many trips in as that we possibly can. Now, remember, if you're moving here from California, you might be used to year-round camping. In San Diego, you could beach camp, you could camp in the desert during the winter time, you could beach camp year round, of course in the mountains during spring and summer. So you're gonna have a little bit more limited camping season here with that weather, or you're gonna have to travel out of state for that. Now, the next mistake up is not researching your local pay versus the cost of living. The cost of living here in the Boise, Idaho area is definitely a lot more affordable than other areas. However, the local pay, depending on what type of industry you're in, may not really be that affordable for you. So if you're tend to be in a lower income job, it might still be really, really tough for you. However, certain jobs, of course, are in really high demand, a lot of construction going on. Those do tend to pay pretty well right now. There is growing engineering with Micron bringing a lot of engineers in. Facebook and Meta is bringing in data centers, not as much engineers, but definitely still good high paying jobs. So there can be good paying jobs for sure, but you just got to really look at what your cost of living is now in California or whatever state you're moving from, what you're being paid versus what your pay scale is going to be when you make the move up here and what that cost of living looks like. You definitely don't want to get here and realize like, oh, I thought it was going to be so much less expensive to live here, and come to find out you're not saving any kind of money. So if affordability is the number one reason, make sure your pay scale matches up with what your potential cost of living is going to be here. I have entire videos about the cost of living you can watch and dive in really deep about utility bills, housing prices, food prices, all kinds of things to help you decide if this makes sense for you or not. Mistake number 3 is picking the wrong suburb for your lifestyle. Now, as I mentioned before, affordability is a big factor. That could be maybe your number one driving consideration when making the move into this area. But you really want to decide what is it exactly that you're looking for. If you're thinking that there's just nature everywhere and anywhere that you move in the Boise, Idaho area, you're going to have amazing access to nature, that may or may not be true. Let's talk a little bit about the geography here. So we have the foothills that are basically before you get to the mountains, but Boise goes right up to the foothills, and there's a lot of activity in there. You've got Bogus Basin up there, you've got for skiing, for mountain biking, snowboarding, and then you've got all kinds of trails throughout the foothill system. And you've got the Boise River that runs through, coming out of those foothills, running through Boise, running through Eagle Star, out through Middleton. And there is just a lot of nature, of course, there. You've got the green belt there. So those are really, really popular areas to move to around the river, near the foothills. So Eagle, Meridian, Star, Middleton, very, very popular for these reasons. However, if you're further away in a place like Nampa, Caldwell, Kuna, you're not going to have access to those areas quite as much. It depends on where you are. If you're North Meridian, you're going to be pretty close to that. If you're in South Meridian, you're not going to really have access to that. In fact, South Meridian, I basically compare to like a nicer version of Nampa. So very, very flat, some ridges and hills like Nampa, just it's a lot newer. Everything's brand new, essentially, it's being built down there. Very, very nice. A lot of retail shops are going in there. There's a new Costco being planned to go in there as well. So just, you're not going to be as close to nature. Now there is Indian Creek on the south side of the Treasure Valley that runs basically through Kuna and south parts of Nampa. But depending on where you are in Kuna, you can get really good access to Indian Creek. So you can get river access, fishing, but you're not going to be that close to the Boise River and the foothill. So make sure that if nature is super important to you, then you need to really consider that. You might want to make sure you're moving into a suburb like Star or Eagle that's closer to those areas. Now, related to the suburb problem is assuming that all your commute times are going to be really short. If you're moving from California, you're probably hearing, oh, there's just not that much traffic in Boise and it's going to be wonderful. I'll be, anywhere in 15 minutes. Well, it's really not true. It just really depends on where you work, what house you decide to purchase, and what that commute time looks like. But a lot of times, especially if you end up in Star, you're probably driving 20, 25 minutes to get anywhere. You end up in Nampa, probably 25, 30 minutes. End up in Middleton, probably 30 to 40 minutes. So these are factors that you need to consider depending on where you work. Now, if you work remote, not really a big problem. Now, another mistake people make is that just assuming that the Boise area is super conservative. That's not necessarily the case. The state of Idaho is very conservative overall. However, the city of Boise basically tends to be like a blue dot in the middle of a red sea. Now, the suburbs around Boise are definitely way more conservative, but again, the city of Boise, not as much. So if you're looking to move here for conservative values, just really decide where you want to end up. Another mistake that people make is just assuming that every single neighborhood is family friendly. Certainly there are many communities here that are family friendly, but you want to do your research and just make sure, go and tour it. Are there kids out playing? Is this going to work for you? Before you pull the trigger on making the move here. And the final mistake I see people making is just waiting too long to decide. It's definitely important to take your time, find the right home, make sure the right timing works for you. But what tends to happen is people just drag their feet and they're like, I'm trying to time the market. I'm trying to wait for the market to drop. And I'm just waiting for that perfect house to come up before I buy. So I would recommend making a trip out here, discovery trip, driving around. I have a complete guide that I can give you. So reach out to me, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email, say, hey, can I get that guide? I'll shoot you over the guide. It maps out all the best places to go to check out, the restaurants, the things to do here, neighborhoods. I'll send that over to you. You can explore and then connect with me. We'll talk and we'll figure out what that best timeline makes sense for you. So if you are looking to make the move here, I hope that this video helped you kind of work through what those top 7 mistakes are. And if you are looking to move, I do run one of the top relocation service teams here in the Boise, Idaho area, and I'd absolutely love to help you make the move as well. For 9 days, 90 days, or even 2 years out, just reach out, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, give me a phone call. We'll hop on a Zoom call and figure out the roadmap to get you moved here to the Boise, Idaho area. If you're looking to explore more about other videos here in the Treasure Valley, watch this video right here, and I'll see you on the next video.